Good morning, Seller Sessions. It's a beautiful Monday here in San Diego, California, and I have with me today Mr. Andrew Morgans, all the way from Kansas City. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Thank you. I know we had some difficulties last week. We were supposed to have you on, but I am so glad you made it today, and so happy to be here with you. You're such an amazing soul.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, last week was a struggle. I was caught in between cities. So I think someone filled in for me, and to that person, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of
And you're
course.
back from COVID from the other side, I think, or from being very sick at least. So glad to have you back as well.
That's definitely from the other side, and I never miss an episode of Seller Sessions on Mondays, and then I had to be out for 2 weeks, so that wasn't pleasant. Like, one, because like it was COVID and it's messed up, right? But second, I felt like I'm missing on my what I need to do. It
Mm.
just made me feel like so bad and so guilty. And I swear I would like lay in bed and I'll be like, you know what? I can do it. I can do this. I can pull myself together. And Danny McMillan, who has this podcast, he's like, no, you need to rest. I'm like, you sure? I think I can make it. I think I can make it. But yeah, it's COVID was definitely an interesting experience for me. And I say interesting because I never get sick. I'm just pretty blessed with a good immune system. I I do large doses of vitamin C powder, and I don't know if I'm just telling myself in my brain that that's what's keeping me healthy, confirmation bias or whatever it is. It's working for me. I swear. And every single person I meet, I'm like, you need to get some vitamin
Vitamin
C
C
powder
packets.
immediately. I swear, whoever that seller is, the Amazon seller that sells this specific product, is making bank just off of the people that I send him. And I get like one of those like 1 pound bags, and it lasts me forever. And then I started putting it in my kid's drink, and he got used to it. I put it in his juice, whatever. And I'm telling you, I feel like it's a miracle drug. I don't know. Do you ever take vitamin C like that?
I actually every once in a while I do those IVs, like the
I do
big.
too. Once in a
Okay.
while, yes,
I feel
yes.
like those are my lifeline probably to good health, like, because it just makes up for all the times I guess I'm missing
You're
glasses of
not.
water or orange juice or something. I get it and I feel like I'm 21 again. I'm like, "Oh my God, I think this is what it feels like to feel normal."
I
Um,
love it. Yes. I've done it once when I was I don't know, I had like a cold, and this like health practitioner I was going to, he's very much on the natural side. It's like, "Oh, you should try this." And I kind of got hooked on them because you're right. It just makes you feel fresh, like almost like a reset, right?
mhm.
Doesn't it feel like that? And you're like, wow, I'm like Superman right now. Like I can do anything. But so when I had COVID, I went to my doctor, and the person that was doing IVs wasn't in. And she's like, you know what? I got you. I'll give you a vitamin shot. And holy shit, guys, if you've never taken a vitamin shot, I don't necessarily recommend it. I mean, it was great. It made me like, I swear, it's bring me back to life from COVID. However, for 3 hours, I couldn't move my arm. It was the most painful
Ooh.
experience I've ever done because it was like intramuscular, and I just felt it like vibrating, and I was like laughing, but like laughing because it was so much pain. And I told the doctor, and she's like, you know what, just to make you feel better, I'll take one today too. And I'm like that's nice, but I don't know, she said there was something in it that made it painful, but it was just like a mixture of kind of like what you get in an IV, but in a shot, like very, very intense. And again, it's under muscle, and it was just painful. However, it brought me back to life. So
Yeah, I think if you don't have like the best like healthy habits and you can bypass some of that with an IV, almost to the point of being like, oh my gosh, is this what it feels like to be like completely like hydrated and like up to date with my like, or like completely full of vitamins? Is this what it feels? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Like I feel energetic. I don't need coffee. So I don't know. It's made me like start honestly wanting to just drink water all the time because I don't think I knew what it meant to be hydrated. I just
mm,
didn't really know. I don't drink like a gallon of water a day. I do my best. But oh my
Mhm.
goodness. And if you're like me, you work late, you work crazy hours, like, entrepreneur, we're like always hard on ourselves if we're not working enough.
Are you a
Um,
morning person or a night person?
well, I work into the morning, through the night into the morning. So
Okay.
does that count as a morning
It,
person too?
well, this is like my answer. Like, I know there's a lot of very successful people that follow this mantra. You got to wake up at 5 a.m. to like really, really rock it, and start your day right, and exercise and run and this, and then like for a long time, it kind of made me feel guilty because we're always we're looking for outside stimuli and outside inspiration, and I'm like, oh my God, if I don't wake up at 5 a.m., like, am I even successful? And then I just kind of made peace with it. I'm like, I am not that person. I'm just not. Like, could I be trained to become that person? Yes, possibly. It will take me forever. And then I'll be tired during the day. And I'll probably get to the point where I'm like, okay, this feels normal. But for me, I realized that I can be better if I stay up until 5 a.m.
Same, that's me. Like that. And you know what? Like, I was raised in Africa, lived in different places of the world. I swear, if I'm there, I'm actually a morning person. Or like if I'm in Europe, that counts, right? Are they like 4 or 5 hours behind us? That's enough sleep for me. I feel like a morning person there. So it just depends on where you are in the world, right? I think like you can switch it around. I did for like a year. I think I did the morning stuff, or I definitely had to do it when I was in corporate and different things. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I've worked at UPS where we had to be there at 4:30 in the morning. I've worked as a security guard, which was like overnights. I've worked like all the crazy shifts that you can imagine.
Yeah.
In my journey of entrepreneurship now, I'm like, my hours for the team are honestly 11 to 6. So partially because we have clients on the coast, right, to accommodate for that and different things, but also it gives everybody time in the morning to get stuff done in their personal life if they need to before they come into work, if they have to, right? Otherwise,
Right.
it's like if you can't be like in go mode by 11 o'clock, then what are we talking about? So you can even be out at the bar till 2 and make it to work by 11 and sharp. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how we do it over here.
I love it. No, I love it. And so me and Andrew, for those listening, met a few weeks ago at Prosper, and we immediately connected. We have so much in common. I was actually going through your YouTube videos, and in one of the YouTube videos, you say that your goal for all your clients and just for anything in life is freedom. And I have the same values. Like, for the longest time, you always try to find your purpose and like, what is it that why I'm doing this? And I realized like it's amazing having that financial freedom, but then it gets to a point where you're like, okay, so now I'm good, but what about the rest of the world? So you try to implement that to help everyone around you like reach that goal as well, because if you're at the top but it's just you, it's like it's really
Lonely. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very lonely because you cannot share that. So I really love that you were saying that in your video. So tell us what you do, Andrew. Who is Andrew Morgans?
Well, I'm a problem solver. I'm an adventurer. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm an uncle, soon to be. I'm a dog dad. Um, I guess I'm a lot of things, like most of us. I am an entrepreneur. I think that's how we've met.
Hmm.
I'm the founder specifically of a company called Marknology, which helps brands on Amazon. I've personally been in the space about 10 years, helping brands on Amazon, and Marknology just turned 7 in August. So we're
Yay.
celebrating a little bit. Thank you. Um,
Congratulations. That's exciting.
but yeah, I'm someone that's done a lot of things to get here. I've tried a lot of different things, found a lot of things that fueled me or didn't fuel me, and just try to pay attention to the ones that did, and
Yes.
move on from the things that didn't. And somehow, we end up here. Very much so. You know, happiness is a gift, like freedom is a gift. It's almost like, and when you teach it to others, you learn it even better yourself. So I love
Oh,
sharing the things I've learned, almost selfishly, because I know that I get to enjoy them a second or third time as
I
I pass them
love
on.
that. Oh my God, that's such a good way to put it, because um sometimes I do that. Like I'll go into like what I call mindset sessions with like my friends, right? And then we go into it and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Like this is so great. Like I just had a breakthrough." And then like you said, like selfishly, I'm like, one, it makes you feel good because you're able to help. But then second is like, okay, so I literally just told myself all these things. So
Mm-hmm.
it just puts them fresh back into your mind. And then I'm pumped. I'm like, let's go. Like I pump myself up all the time. It's kind of funny. I mean, obviously it took me years to master this craziness.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's amazing. And I love that you did that. And for you to be in this business for 10 years, I know you've had so many interesting life stories and life paths. What made you stick with this specific one for so long? Would you say that this is the longest you've ever been in like one particular area?
Yeah, I would. I played music and traveled for about 5 years, touring, playing music. But e-commerce, definitely, computers and IT, I've been in it since I was a kid, for sure. Like I was hacking satellites and setting up networks, back in the day before you could just like connect with Wi-Fi or, plug computers in and they would talk. You had to like have all these gateways and all these subnets and things to get to work. So since I was a kid, I've been building computers or very comfortable around them. And I didn't discover e-commerce even till I was out of college, till I was out of university. And I just kind of like came across e-commerce, and it was just like this perfect blend. Like my name, Marknology, is a mixture of marketing and technology, and e-commerce kind of right in the middle of that. I just kind of felt like I'd always had this like creativity artist side, and then I also had this IT technical background, like just always been good at that. And when I found e-commerce, I just fell in love with it, so I stuck with it. And I'd also say that early on it started giving me more freedom. Even when I was still corporate as an e-commerce manager, I was like struggling to or I was really at least hyper focused on getting my finances like super like locked in and dialed in. And so it was giving me freedom in my life financially. And so e-commerce and freedom have gone hand in hand with me for the last 10 years.
Did you start as a seller? How did you start this? How did you get into this?
So I had a degree in IT. I started working at a knock. So my degree was in networking and security. And a knock is a network operations control technician, is what it stands for. And basically you monitor networks like bank networks. And so I did that for a year, hated it. It was like where IT people go to die. And it was not for me. And so I was making more money than I ever had, and but I wanted something different. So I was just like looking everywhere for jobs. I had all these networking jobs reaching out
Did
to
it
me.
just feel repetitive? Like what was it that you
It was like a
didn't
12-hour
like?
shift for me. It was a 12-hour
Mhm.
shift. I would come in, I would like read the tickets from the guy before me, the 12-hour shift
Mhm.
before me. I would take over a couple of his tickets, like broken router in India 2, or Pakistan 3 network is down, or Bank of America in Brazil is down, or something like this. And I would come in, I would, call their technicians on that side of the bank. That's what I did basically. And was like, hey, how's things going? What's the update? Put notes in a ticket. Boom. I would get an update every hour or so and watch cops on TV. And I was just like wasting away. I was like, that was the premise of the job, basically. And it was a little bit more technical than that, but that's what it felt like. Um, and I had been just like touring around the US, performing on stages, like being around people, like creating things, creating music, to just like watching networks. I wasn't even creating within IT. I wasn't even like programming. I was like watching networks. And just was not for me. I was just getting depressed. And
Mhm.
I guess I'm just aware. I'm not always aware of what move to make ahead of time, but I'm aware when I've made the wrong move. And so I just was like, I needed some other opportunity. I'm like, if this is IT, I'm not going to give up on my degree just yet. I'm gonna try something else. A startup came up, which was I wasn't a seller. It was a startup, but I was working for a seller as employee number 3, and I put all his products up on Amazon, eBay, his website. I was kind of the guy brought in to do that. And so it was almost like I was a seller, but it wasn't my own money, right? So I
Right.
was learning, um, I got 4 raises in a year during that time, and different things like that. But that's how I got into it. It was car parts about 10 years ago. Um,
Let me ask you something about that experience,
yeah,
because I'm very curious. So because it wasn't like your money per se, and you said you got 4 pay raises, which means you did really well for them. Do you feel like the fact that it wasn't really your money that you were playing with, you were able to take maybe more um, active decisions and be a little bit on the, how do I say this? Like on the verge of like going extreme, like, oh, we can do this and we can do that because it wasn't your money? Or do you feel like you would have made those decisions regardless? Because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that I see, Amazon sellers, they're always kind of scared to do different things. Like, oh, I don't know if I should like invest money in this marketing or in this team that does like superb videos. Like they're always kind of afraid to make this big steps. Do you feel like maybe that helped you see the bigger pictures because it wasn't like your money you were playing with?
I think yes. I think in a way I would have to say yes. Like, my education now that I'm 10 years in is 300 plus brands and sellers. Like I have definitely learned. And what I can say is like when at the startup, I'm not sure that I would have been able to acknowledge that. At the next
Mm,
job, I was an e-commerce manager and I started freelancing on the side. And on those freelancing jobs, I remember saying, "Hey, I know how to do, 1 out of 3 things. I know how to do 2 out of 3 things you're asking for. I don't know how to do the other one. I'll learn it as we go." And I was like saying that. My pitch was legitimately like, "Let me learn on your dime, basically. Like, I'll do it really cheap."
yeah.
So I know like later on that definitely was the case. I think I was also very concerned with like his margins. We had to do like crazy spreadsheets and really no
Mhm.
margins, and we were tracking profitability. And if I made mistakes like selling products or combos that I was putting together where we were losing money once shipping came in or whatever, like I personally felt that
Mm.
responsibility. So um yeah, like he was chewing my ass out basically, like if I fucked up, so I I do feel like it wasn't my money, and I understand where sellers can be. 10 years later, I'm like, oh my God, like I just want to pay to learn things faster, like
Yeah.
than that. But I want to try. But I was scared. I mean, I wasn't scared to take these chances, but it wasn't my money. So I mean, I think I know it's a long answer, but I would say I was more willing to learn, because it was his
Mhm.
money. I took more chances.
That's amazing that you're able to do that. Like I still wonder sometimes, like it's so hard these days building teams. It's very hard finding those people like me and you were 10 years ago that were just so hungry for knowledge that they would have done anything. Like even for me, any job I ever had, like I wanted to become the best. And again, maybe selfishly, like I really wanted them to be like, you know what, she was the best we've ever had. Like I got
Yep.
to learn so much in the meantime, but at the same time it was like an ego thing. Like I want them to be like, holy shit, Isabella was the best we've ever had. And I worked every day. It doesn't matter whether I was like my nanny job or I worked at a chapel at one point. I worked at the US Embassy. And I think that's how me and you connected, because you lived in Africa, I lived in Africa, and we're like, holy shit, like when else do you ever meet people that have lived in Africa and can like tell a tale about
Live
it?
to
But
tell the tale, right? Live to
yeah,
tell the tale.
exactly. And I I really put in all my focus. And again, to building teams, I feel like that's a piece that's missing, or that is very hard for me to find. When I interview people, it's like it's almost like that hunger, it's kind of died down. And I don't know if it's like the technology around us or people don't have the patience anymore, but there's nothing, in my opinion, that you cannot learn in like 6 months. Like if you want to be an expert in absolutely anything, and I come across so many people that they're like, you know what, I don't know what my talent is, I don't know what I want to do. And I've been there, I've been in that position where I just feel stuck. But for me, what got me out of it is like, start one little thing, and that will create momentum. And
Mm,
just like next thing you know, you're on fire. And it can be with anything. And if you think about it, I mean, and I say 6 months, it's kind of like a kind of a big time, but you
right.
can really learn anything. Like if you focus on, you know what, I'm about to learn how to code a small program, whatever, like 1 to 3 months, but that's all you do. That's all you do, day and night, day and night, day and night. And then you keep building your skill set, and then you may realize you don't like it or whatever, but then we have all this time that passes anyway. Like, there's almost no excuse today to not be good at something. I mean, the internet, of course, you can take it as, good and bad, but like, I think when it comes to really studying any type of field or any information that you want, is just there for us. And I think it's so great. On the other side, of course, it can be very overwhelming. And
Mm.
somebody's like, I don't know where to start. If I want to start an Amazon store, I go to YouTube, and there's a million different people saying million different things, but the information is there in the end. So I think, again, like, that hunger is what drove us years ago. And I would love to see that come back a little more in the younger generation that's trying to make it. And again, I don't know if it's like the technology or like everything that keeps our mind occupied. Like, you're always like on Instagram and then TikTok and this. It's almost like we don't give ourselves enough time to find ourselves.
It's discipline. I mean, you're right about time to find ourselves. It's also, I used to look at all the things and jobs I jumped between as failures. Honestly, it was for survival. Like, I had to eat, so it was like I worked this security job at Ameristar. It was overnight security guard at a casino. And I got 2 great lunches while I was there. I basically got breakfast and lunch. Like, they had an inside, like, if you've ever ate at the buffet in the casino, it was
Mhm.
like behind that is they have their own internal kitchen. You can basically order whatever you want.
Mm,
So, when I was in college, like, trying to get by, things like that, it was like 2 great meals. Like, why not? And then, I would go into whatever my day job was, or school. And I, like, that job was the job I worked. It was one of the only jobs I didn't give a 2-week notice. I was like fine when I was training with these other security guards. Like, they all had great stories. And I was like, as I was like shadowing them and like learning the ropes at the casino, they had a lot to share with me that was very interesting and exciting. And I was just like learning. And then I like was out on my own, and it was only a few weeks of being out on my own where I was just like, this is horrible. And I'm like, I like was just like, I cannot do this. Like, I have to switch. I have to switch. I have to
mm,
pivot. It was like, whether the lunch or the money or whatever is great, I'll figure
mm,
something else out. Just standing there alone for 5 hours,
yeah,
just watching people be zombies in the slot
yeah.
machine was not
But
good
you
for
could have
me.
stayed. You could have stayed and be comfortable. You see, I feel like a lot of people get into that zone, like, especially for you, like a young kid. You already have your meals, you already get paid, and it's always that decision, like, am I going to stay comfortable? Because it was comfortable, right? You were
Yeah.
making enough money to like cover rent expenses and food, and then that gets to a point like, holy shit, is this going to be my life? Like,
No.
that
Hmm.
monotony, like doing the same things over and over again. I feel like that's like the entrepreneur soul. Like, if you start like getting like tingly, like, I can't do this anymore, even though it's so comfortable. And
Gotta go.
what the hell am I gonna do next? And you do it anyway.
Yeah. Another thing I would say is like, my definition for what balance is changes all the time. Like, but I do believe to any young ears out there listening, like, obsession can be a form of balance. And sometimes to get great at something, like in a world where everything is handed to you, like, you have to be obsessed for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it takes. Is your obsession freedom? Is your obsession traveling? Is your obsession that perfect body? Like, what is your obsession? Trying to have balance where you're like, well, I'm having enough time for my friends, enough time for my family, enough time for my hobbies, enough time for me, self-care. Oh my God. And I'm enough time to be an expert at something when everyone else in the world is doing the same thing or studying the same thing, and you're going to be an expert by doing it part-time. No, you need to go all in. You need to be obsessed, and you can find that balance in 3 months. When you come out of the closet and you've coded that program, or if you've figured out what it is that you need. But sometimes you just have to like chase that hunger, where it leads you.
Right. Do you feel like you've always kind of had this ever since being a kid? Because I mean, you've had an interesting story, but do you feel like you always had this like fire inside of you of like doing what your soul calls for?
Yeah. My dad was a missionary. I'm fourth generation preacher's kid. So like my dad went to Congo. Um, Congo was the most dangerous country in the world at that time. It was pre 9/11. Um, and there was no one there to receive us. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is I watched my dad like chase his passions, and whether they're my passions or not, that's not the point here. The point being, had a good example of someone just really chasing their dreams and didn't let their kids or obstacles get in the way. You know, we went along for the ride. And I think I've lived my life as the same way. Same thing with sports, like growing up in Africa, coming back to the US at 16. I didn't have the same opportunities to play sports or compete that way. Wasn't the most handsome, like, you know, gingers or like whatever, weren't loved at the time. Like, you know, all these different things that like, where'd you get your,
Are gingers loved now?
yeah, like we have Ed Sheeran and like, you know, there's like, we have some like popular redheads now. I think we even have like Disney cartoons with redheads as the main character. So we're in there now.
You're coming
But
up. You're coming
yeah,
up now.
we're on the come up. Yeah, for sure. But like, you know, the lack of these things I think drove me to be kind of the person that was like show whether it was gaming like or different things like that, these things I could win in, these things that I could compete in. Work ethic, I could outwork everybody, you know, like I wanted to be great at whatever I was doing, whether that was serving, whether that was, you know, whatever. And also my being homeschooled, it was like as soon as you were done with school, as soon as you were done studying, you could go play. So it was like always meritocracy in my world where you got benefits or whatever based on how hard you worked.
Mm,
So I would feel like I was almost raised with this like entrepreneurial mindset that a lot of us need to be successful entrepreneurs, which was just like, look, if I'm serving for 4.5 hours, because server hours aren't usually like a full 8 hour day, it's like a 4.5 hour shift or whatever. And if you're serving in 4.5 hours, like how much money can I make per hour?
mm,
I'm only here 4.5 hours, like let's get it, you know?
mm,
And I love those type of environments where it was just like, um, can you get an 8 hour day into 2 hours? Like what, you know,
mm.
just always making these games and competitions. So I think it's been in me since I was a little kid. I didn't always know it or be able to identify it, but um, I've always been very competitive, passionate, um, ambitious, I guess, you know, whatever that looks like.
And you felt like you had to do this extra work for all the things that you felt that were missing, like not being in US. And so you were 16 when you moved back from Africa. How long were you in Africa? Like what age did you go and when did you come back?
So I'll be honest, the timelines are like, don't quote me because
Approximate.
yeah, for the while,
I'm going to go
some
down
of
and
this was
research
like
and I'm going to
blocked
call
out.
you out on for like the wrong date. So yeah, go
Okay,
for it.
deal. Okay, so born in Montreal, my parents were learning French, and so we went to French Africa. We were always trying to go to French Africa. Montreal or Cameroon, I was 3. So by 3, I was in Cameroon. Botswana was like at 10, 11, and then Congo at 12. Somewhere in there were trips home to Kansas City as well. So we would like come back, raise some money, go back to the next country. So from like 12 to 16, I was in Congo, and I came back like a couple of days after my 16th birthday.
Unbelievable. Give me one memory from Congo that's like something that people wouldn't expect. I
Um,
know you have many, so feel free to unpack as much as you want. But I've lived in Africa, and your story is way better than mine because I was
well,
living a cushy life in a mansion that the embassy put me on with like servers and guard gates, and I know your experience was different.
it was different. It was different. I remember honestly, there's so many memories come flooding back to mind. You know, I was there during a coup d'etat, so the president was assassinated, and they evacuated everyone, you know, from the embassy. They evacuated all the Americans, and I remember my dad told them when they came to the gate that we weren't going with them. We were
Oh,
gonna stay. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? We couldn't afford to get back. So it was like,
Mhm.
you know, it's $5,000 a ticket, I think, for a family, and we had 5 people, so 25,000 was like our budget for the whole year to be there. So we stayed. Um, I was picked up by police and held for a day. You call that kidnapping, I guess. Had friends get shot. It was a wild, wild time. I have good memories as well. Congo was a very rough, dangerous place. You know, more of my like good positive memories, I think, are like Cameroon, growing up in the bush, like, you know, grabbing fruit right off the trees and running around barefoot like Mowgli, honestly.
Right.
You know, my friends had a chimp. It wasn't like a crazy thing. There was no social media back then, so like you weren't going to get roasted.
Mm.
um you know, I just had a really good time there. There's so many different, like, as you know, there's so many different countries and cultures and political environments across Africa. Like, you know, it can, you say Africa, but it can be, you know, so many different things. I think they say Africa is as big as North and South America in
Yeah.
actuality, and they just shrink it for the globe. So very big place. Botswana was the desert. So I don't know, I have so many stories come to mind, but you know, Congo was a crazy place. Like, you know, I think Hotel Rwanda, if anyone's seen that movie, that's a Don Cheadle's a Kansas City guy, so I like giving him a little of love. But Don Cheadle did such a good job in that movie, and when I was in Congo, right after that movie took place. So
Unbelievable.
in the years after that, I think you were in the similar area as well.
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was in Rwanda for close to 2 years, and I actually went to the hotel because, of course, like before I found out that I'm moving there, like I was doing all this research, and I'm like, holy shit! Out of all the places they could have sent us, like literally, like for the US embassy, you can go to any place on earth that has a US embassy. And I'm like, so many beautiful places. Like, why didn't we go to Paris? And, all these like cool places. And a little that I know, like this experience would change me so much. And I feel like it's true what they say. Like, once you live in Africa, it's like part of it stays in you. And I didn't understand that while living there, but then now when I look back, I'm like, it's so true. It's just it lives such a print in your heart, and the sunsets and the people and the culture, even though Rwanda was a very intense place to live in. So like for me, I'm a big empath. So as soon as like I landed in Rwanda, I was like, oh my God, like all this energy, like what the hell is
Boom.
going on? And I didn't know myself that well either.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I know myself now that I've done so much work on myself and on my psyche and
Mm-hmm.
personal development. And I didn't know what that was. I was like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Like I kept trying to understand it. And it's like the energy of people and like their history and what they've gone through. And then, of course, I see the movie and then I read the books, and it's like all these kids that were like murdered. And it's like you don't really understand until you live in a place, like the culture, the energy, the feel of the people. Like we have it so good in this country. I mean, and also, I was born in Romania under a communist society, and a dictator. So that was another interesting experience. But yet when I went to Africa, I'm like, I am so blessed. I
Mm.
am so blessed for even having had a roof over my head. All the things that I thought, like, oh, poor me, like from Romania. And, it was cold in the winter. And, we only had like a loaf of bread. But there's people who have none of that. None of that. And it just really humbles you to your core. But
Yep.
that experience in Africa was both beautiful and sad for me. But I feel like it was something I had to learn at that time in my life. And I would like to go back one day and like go to all those places. And again, Africa will always stay in my heart. And I mean, you're really African.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we'll have to take a trip together. I'm trying to rebrand or like rebrand in my head like what Africa can be for me. Just because a lot of the memories I have, you know, trauma like makes big things out of the smallest things. So like smaller memories still cloud a lot of my memories around
Mhm.
Africa. Um, And for me, I want to go back and just do it kind of different, the waterfalls and
Mm,
the beautiful scenery, and just kind of reshape some of those memories.
nice.
So maybe we can do that at the same time and just like
Yeah,
make it a
we'll
group
create
thing.
some content, some African
Yeah, but
content.
you said, like, if you've been to Africa, it's in you, and you're talking about that perspective, and oh my gosh, like I wouldn't be doing this justice if I didn't talk about that. I feel like as a white male here in the Midwest, my family comes from Oklahoma and Kansas City, Missouri, and Poplar Bluff, and just these like Midwest Bible Belt places. Um, but I was somehow raised in Africa, in a place where privilege is like, just being American is privilege, not being
Yes.
white American. And I guess I've always had a little bit of that work ethic and that fire. That's like, man, you're so blessed to even have 3 jobs here, or to have a place in this house. I can go get water in 5 different places. Like even the toilet water is probably cleaner than a lot of what people get. And just so many blessings on blessings on blessings, that even when it's been dark or grim for me here, um I'm always brought back to the small little things that was just like, I'm thankful for heat, and I'm thankful for air conditioning, and I'm thankful
Yeah.
for water, and I'm thankful for shoes, and I'm thankful for socks, and I'm thankful for the ability to buy dog food. And like, just really being grateful. And a lot of people learn this later in life, I think, to do those things. And I do feel like as a kid, I've always had that gratitude piece.
Mm,
So I'm thankful for my religious family that taught me those things, and in my African experience, because it's been a struggle. It's been, even as a young man, looking like this, redheaded, right, but inside having a soul that's African. um I wasn't like, there wasn't a white part of me, and then I went to Africa, and then I came back, and I was like, okay, who am I now? It was like
wow.
there was an African side of me, and then I had to come back and be greeted with a white side, honestly.
Mm,
But don't look that way. And so, identity crisis in some
yeah,
ways, and really just not fitting in, and having to go soul searching much through my 20s, which has led me here, and I'm grateful. So it's like,
right.
it's the sum of all of the things that gets us here. But I will say, one superpower I have, I think, is gratitude at the highest level.
Mm, mm, mm. I love that. And I think for me, the secret of my success and what I consider success is definitely the gratitude part, because people don't realize how the little things make the biggest difference ever. So I always tell people, like, if you feel stuck in any type of way and you have no clue where to start, just start being grateful.
Hmm.
Literally, this one simple thing. And, a lot of people that go through a lot of hardship, it's very hard for them to see that. Like, what can I possibly be grateful for? Well, one, you are alive. Like, we have such a short time on this earth. And just by the simple fact that you are able to wake up every single morning, that should be your number one gratefulness. So if you have absolutely nothing to be grateful for, just saying thank you for being alive. And then once you get into the habit of being grateful for the small things, even though being alive, it's a pretty big thing, I think. But then everything else will follow. You're like, oh, and I'm also grateful for having fresh, clean water. And you can have that perspective without having to live in an impoverished place.
Hmm.
You can start cultivating that yourself right now. Look around you. Oh, I see all these pretty girls on Instagram and I'm not as pretty. I am grateful for having a freaking iPhone that I'm looking at this thing. I am grateful to be connected to a community, whatever that is. I am grateful for being healthy at this moment. There's so many non-healthy people right now. Like for me, even COVID like gave me even a deeper meaning to all of this, because I always like preach the same things, like be grateful, be happy, be this. But then when COVID got me, Andrew, I felt almost unplugged from this world. And I've never once had that feeling ever in my life. And, as I said, I'm super healthy, but I'm a human. So I do get sick once in a blue moon. And I've never felt a psychological illness I feel like until now with COVID, I literally felt like, like I am this computer and I'm plugged to life, and then COVID happened and I was unplugged. So everything I saw was almost gray and I didn't find my place. Like, yeah, you're battling with being sick. Like my back hurt for like 2 days. I could breathe fine. So it wasn't for me necessarily the physical, it was more the psychological part, and not being it's disconnection. And again, I'm trying my best to really portray, to paint the picture of how that felt. But I remember like in the waking hours, because I was mostly asleep the whole time, I would look on Instagram and I would like look at reels or whatever, like people having fun. And I was trying to remember like what that felt like. Like the weirdest thing, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to be better so I can like go out in the sun. I can't, like, I would fantasize about going in the store and like being normal and like grocery shop, like this, the weirdest, smallest things that I've never felt in my life. I just wanted that back. And I think that's what it feels like to be really lonely
Mm.
in this life. And again, it just gave me a different understanding of life that I haven't considered before. Like you can be alive yet have no life within you. You can have no light within you. And I think that was my biggest lesson from COVID. And I am a little hippie. So, in my opinion, everything that happens to us is for a reason. And I think, the reason for me was, just being even more awake, because I think I'm awake, but then at times I'm like, I'm not awake at all. Like, what am I even doing? So this was almost like a slap in the face, like, wake up. Wake up. And I did. And I really hope the feeling doesn't leave me. Of course, it gets distorted and it gets less and less and less, but I hope I can always come back to this part, this lesson part that I had from COVID.
No, I love that. And I've been there. It wasn't COVID for me. That was like a psychological one. Um, some of it was the pandemic though, in general, for me. And it was always trying to just ground myself, like, a lot of people had a lot of time during the pandemic, not necessarily in e-commerce, like we were busier than ever in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And, oh my God, there's so many people I can help. Oh my God, there's so much work to do. Oh my God, there's so many opportunities. Like, it's just like work, 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 work. And, the play went way down,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
work hard, play harder, but there wasn't anything to do. And so, it's really easy to get in my own head of just like, what am I doing? I'm just in this rat race. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not connected. I'm not feeling connected to anyone. Anyone that talks is annoying me.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it was like, I don't want them to share their political beliefs or, their opinion on masks or the vaccine or traveling or just like, oh my God, anything that a human has to say to me right now is annoying.
Yeah.
And, it just really caused me to just like hole up. We have the ability to work from home or work remote, or I could go back. I have a beautiful office. So it's like I could get away to that. I was blessed to have that, but then could come home and I just didn't really need to interact with people. And it was a psychological warfare for me. It was just like, mentally struggling with loving what I do, which I know I love what I do, but too much of anything is murder.
Mhm.
So it was just, I know that struggle and that brain fog, of just being like, man, I would just be so appreciative to be, outside doing this, traveling, doing whatever. And
Yeah.
just had to take control of that. And for me, that was like taking these little day trips with my Jeep and kayak or my dog and just like, okay, I can't do that. I can't go to Europe or I can't go to San Diego or I can't go wherever, but I can go to the lake or, I can find little things within my mind to reframe my perspective around, gratitude and just thankful for the small things.
Absolutely. I felt the same. I felt the same. And I think for me, like I always see on the bright side of everything. And even though when the pandemic started, like I felt very confident that it's not going to last too long. And then it just kept going and going and
Going.
going. And it's like, oh my God, like what is happening to my inside, like what is going on, because I think I have a very strong personality and very strong mindset, and it's very hard to break that. Like even if I have a down day, like the next day I'm back up, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm back, bitches, like I'm here, so it's very hard to break me. But yet when it's like Chinese torture, it's like drop by drop by drop by drop. I didn't even know I was getting affected.
Yeah.
So, but every day it's like, and again, I'm a big empath, and for me, like other people's feelings really affect me. And then starting to see the divide, like mask, no mask, and then, vaccines, no vaccine, and all these things. And yeah, at the root of all of this is like we all want the same things.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be healthy. We all want to trust our government. We all have the same thing in common, but we forget that. We look at all the other things. Well, he likes this show and I like this show, so he's a terrible human because he likes that. Like we forgot that we're all humans and we're all one and part of each other, and we all want to be healthy. So whether you are pro mask or anti mask, we all think the same thing. We all want to protect ourselves. So for somebody wearing a mask, oh, if I wear a mask, like I can't really breathe well. And there's all these other implications. For somebody that's wearing a mask, they may say, well, I'm protecting myself from like the incoming virus or whatever. So we all want to be healthy.
Right.
This is the bottom of it, and people forget that. They're like, oh, he has different opinions than me, so he's the bad guy. And it's the same in politics. It's always this division that it just irks me, because it's like we could be so much better than this if we all remember that we all want the same things.
Focusing on our similarities versus our differences, and as an empath, I think I'm with you on that. It was just like being around the negative energy in general was just like drip by drip by drip. Like I was just like, okay, I'd rather be by myself than around this negativity. And then being by myself was not a good thing either.
Yeah.
So it was, it was just like focusing on, it was too easy. The visual differences were just too much to be like, okay, this is this person's fear tolerance. This is this person's fear tolerance. This is this person's like, inclusive mindset or not. Everything was so visible on the outside that it was almost overwhelming. But it's just like every time it brings me back, I think one last thing I was going to say is like, when you're in those places, it's so important to have a team or a community or people around you that are like, whenever you're just like feeling sorry for yourself or going down that rabbit hole of like not being grateful, to just have that person remind you, hey, like, and point out those positive things. I know me and my friends or my sisters do that to each other all the time. And whether it's like, hey, we have to go get a drink to celebrate this win, because if we don't celebrate the small wins, like, it's just like the losses pile up in entrepreneurship, so you have to celebrate the wins. You either need that friend, you need that group, you need that community. If at first you don't have that, you have to do that for yourself and celebrate your own small wins and things like that. But hopefully you start building a tribe and collecting people around you that feel the same way. And that's the best way to honestly get out of those ruts or that kind of like that cloudiness. Is you can be your own hype man or have somebody in your corner that's just like, reminding you what's important.
Yeah. And even, a lot of people that say that they're introverts, I think I think introverts are just very choosy people, and I love that. Like, it's not that they can be around people, it's just they choose who they like to be around. So I don't see it as like, oh, I don't like people at all, because we are all humans, and it's just part of our souls, our DNAs. Like we cannot be alone.
The
Like
tribe.
we
Yeah.
cannot be alone. It's just it's impossible. That's why even like in prison, like when you're somebody stuck with like all these criminals, like the worst thing you can do is put them in solitary confinement. Like you would rather be with criminals and rapers and all of this than being alone. So I don't really believe in this like introvert, you know, person, because we all want to be with people. So for me, I'm a super extrovert, it's obvious. So for me, I took it very hard when the pandemic happened, because even though, I have my best friends and they're amazing and they're supportive, but I miss human connection. Like, even like when we met in Vegas, like we were talking about like spirituality and like how our hearts are open and we just want to love. Like, this is like what we're made to do. Like, at the end of it, it's not the money, it's not any of this material things. We do it because it's fun. It's like a super fun thing for us, especially entrepreneurs. Like, we just love to win. Like, it gets to be way beyond money at one point. And I think just coming back to like keep remembering that we're all like wanting the same things. We want to be happy. We want to be healthy. Like, we want our families to enjoy the rest of their short time on this earth, because it's so short. It's like it's crazy. I mean, we don't know what happens. Oh, some of us think we do. We know what happens after, but in all reality, we don't know. Like, we all
Right.
may have ideas, but just try to be grateful for every single waking moment. If you have absolutely nothing to be grateful for in this moment of your life, be grateful for being alive. Be grateful for being able to open your eyes tomorrow and start over again. Because a lot of people get caught into this whole idea of like, oh my God, I'm this age, so therefore I have no other options. I've been working at this company for 25 years. That's nothing. There's nothing else there for me. It's that decisive moment where it's like, okay, I will do this. And the great things always happen like on the other side of fear.
Mm.
And it's just so beautiful. Life is so beautiful. It's just made for us to play, I think, in my opinion. I think we're here to play and have fun.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think we need to really say much else. Like, what you want is on the other side of what you fear. I truly believe that. And sometimes like my risk tolerance and my fear tolerance, depending on what's going on in my life, is greater or less. But sometimes I'll that will hit so strongly with me, and I'll just be so courageous in regards to just like, let me take on 20 new fears, like I'll just
Yeah.
go head
Right.
first and can get like a lot of growth all at one time because I'm just taking on all of those fears. And other times I feel drained and I need to protect myself and be safe and recharge, and I'm not
Mm.
ready to take those on. It's knowing when is a good, at least, I don't know. I don't think everyone works exactly the same way, but that's how it works for me. So in those moments, it's just like, I call those growth modes, and I'm just growing, 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 growing. And other times it's recharging and protecting and working on some other stuff. So, embrace those things, embrace the fears. Like me and my roommate were talking about it yesterday. That it's just like, whether it's you've never danced before, you've never swam before, you never jumped out
Yeah.
of an airplane, you've never been on a waterfall hike. I don't know what those things are for you, but I encourage you to make a list, just like you would a gratitude journal. Make a list of some of the things that scare you, and that's a great way to get started. And finding what you're passionate about is just take on a whole bunch of things that scare the shit out of you. And I bet you'll like some of those things, very much so. And it's a great place to start trying to figure out what makes you tick. And yeah, I mean, I love that
Ah,
your happiness is on the other side of your fear.
such good advice. I mean, I think we've covered so much. We didn't get really to talk about your business, but just trust me, guys. Andrew kicks ass. Let's put it this way. And maybe we can do another episode in the future where we like kind of unpack on what we do. But um, this is why I do this on Mondays, because I really want people to understand the importance of creating good habits and, um, you know, change your mindset a little bit on things that you feel. If you meet a situation where you have so much resistance and hate towards something or somebody, take a moment, pause, and look at it. Why is this anger me so much? Why is this annoying me so much? Because when you start asking those questions,
Mm,
you will be able to unpack it and be like, oh, is that right? Is that how I really feel? Because, of course, depending on where we grew up and what we've done in our lives, we are kind of biased in what we believe. if like my parents were like super Republicans, then the chances are pretty high that I will become a Republican. I'm just saying, I'm don't belong to any political parties. And it's not really my thing, but I'm but I'm just saying, uh start taking a look at like, who am I really? Am I really this person that was brought up this way, that had all these values? Like, are those my values, or are those ingrained into my head from family, from religion, from that? And start kind of shining the light on these things that, once, that you love, and two, that you don't. And once you start looking at that really hard, then you're going to be able to find yourself. And then you can start thinking for yourself. And again, the result is not important. Like, if you are pro-vax and become anti-vax, or the other way around, it's not good or bad. It's just, but at least now you're like, you know what? It was a decision that I made based on who I am at this point. Is not what my parents taught me, is not what, the neighborhood that I live in believes. And I think that's important. I think that's what we don't do enough of. And that's why it's so important to talk about these things, because if you want to learn about Amazon, go to YouTube for free and you will learn a lot. Again, there's so many courses out there that can get you to the point. But the mindset part needs to, now more than ever, I think, needs to be addressed and readdressed over and over and over again. And that's why for me, like, I love Amazon, and it's has created a beautiful life where I can feel free to do things like this and fly all over the place. And I am extremely grateful for the opportunities that it provided for me. But I don't think I would have had that without my mindset. And I think this is what people leave out. Like, oh, if I'm only going to learn everything about Amazon, I will rock it. There come points, especially with Amazon. It's so interesting because it's like, it's trying us so much. Now the list is independent. Now this is happening. Now this is happening. And if you don't have that solid foundation, you will give up. And then what's the point of having spent thousands and thousands of dollars to become the master of this trade? It doesn't matter. Get your mindset right.
I love it. Mindset is everything. And to anyone like listening who doesn't know my own story, I've learned in my 7 years of straight entrepreneurship, being on my own. I guess I've always been an entrepreneur, but 7 years on my own. I just focus on my mindset and my character and things that need improved in my character or my mindset, or my, even my body, my physical body. Because as I improve these things, it hasn't been that a business obstacle stood in the way of my personal growth. It was always that personal growth stood in the way of a business obstacle for me. It did not go the other way around. And so I'm always just focusing on a personal obstacle or personal growth. That's what I'm talking about: personal growth, mindset, physical health. Because as I continue to level those things up, whether it's communication, whether it's patience, whether it's any of those things, then my business grows. So why I don't even focus on my business as much,
Yes.
because that just comes along with the territory of the personal development. So I am like, we're talking about mindset. We could have been talking about Amazon, but for me, they're one and the same. If I didn't have the business, if I didn't really want to win at business, I'm not sure I would have done the work on my personal self that I needed to do. But wanting to win at business, I quickly realized that, oh my God, okay, I need to fix my communication skills. Okay, I need to fix this skill, because they were hurting me in my business side. And so that's what brought the awareness. That's what brought the flashlight, so to speak. But once I kind of realized that early on, okay, this is really how it goes. I've shifted almost all of my my development to personal development, because I really feel like that's the precursor for the business growth.
Oh, so good. So good. And, every time I talk to a successful entrepreneur, I feel like there's always this part at the core where they really, truly understand the mindset part, and it's not necessarily the business part. Again, you can become a master of a trade in a very short period of time. Like, we all have access to all this information. Why aren't there just more billionaires walking around? Why aren't there more millionaires walking around? It's the mindset part, it's not the skill part. We live in an age where we literally have absolutely everything we want at our fingertips. It's there. All the information is there. You know, you can take Harvard classes free, Oxford, all these universities offer free classes that you can check online and they will let you take them for free. Information is there. You can become a master of any skill. I mean, minus like a surgeon and, you know, the things that you really need to have a lot of practice in. But pretty much, I mean, yeah, you have all these other options. So it's not the skill part, is the mindset part. It's, I would say the skill part is maybe 10%, in my opinion. And I may be wrong. Um, but the 90 is like how you believe you're going to get there. Like, first set up your beliefs. I was talking to a friend of mine. We had a mindset session the other night, and you know, I was telling her, and she said, "You know what? Like, yeah, you're right. Like, I think, you know, like I can be successful, and I will be successful by working really hard." And she kept saying this, like, if I work hard, I'm going to be very successful. And I said to her, I said, "You know what? That's not what I want. I want to work the least amount of time and be the most successful." And she's like, huh, I never thought of it this way. It's because the programs that are running into our brains all the time, if I work hard, then I will be successful. And if you look at this mantra, people have been saying it for years. It's like, work hard, be successful. And you will get successful for sure, because you already believe that you will be successful by working hard. But what's the payoff? You have to work hard. So I would, if you have one wish to make, why in the world would you ever wish to work hard? I don't want to work hard. I want to chill with my friends. I want to have this kind of conversation 24 hours. I don't want to work hard. Like, that's just part of my life and what I do, and I love what I'm doing. I enjoy it, but I'd rather talk about like spirituality and mindset than like sit and stress out about certain things. So we have to listen to our thoughts. We have to really dig deeper and see, what are the programs that are running in my mind at all times. Oh, if you work hard, you'll be successful. Oh, you know, money, only like bad people have money. Like, I don't want, a lot of things that I hear is like, I just want to have enough. I don't want anything more. It's almost like they're trying to humble. And I feel like, you know, maybe they think like God is listening or something. Like, God, if you listen to me, I only want 100,000 a year. Like, I kind of want, but not enough to upset you. Look at these things. Where is that shit coming from? Where are those thoughts coming from? Oh, I only want this much. It's a wish that you are making. Wish for whatever you want. There's not a limit where you're like, okay, if I break over the 500,000 mark, then I'm definitely going to hell, or whatever your story it is that is telling you. It's like, start trying to humble yourself. It's doing you no good. Be open. Wish for the world, because you might just get it. You
I
might
think
just.
it's I think it's we're so used to just like, you know, listening to everyone around us. And, you know, if my Instagram is really about me, like you said, like saying out loud, like almost like a promise to myself. Like, you know, if I've said it to the world, like the more than I hate more than anything else is a hypocrite. So if I've said it out loud on a podcast or on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, I'm gonna try really hard not to be a hypocrite in my own
Yeah.
in my own world. Okay. And so,
Yeah.
you know, when you say those things out loud, it's just like a promise. You know, you're saying it to the universe, you're saying it to God, you're saying it to yourself. You know, this is what I'm capable of. And for me, I was always setting the ceiling too low. And I thought I was setting it high, but I was setting it low. And you have these people on Instagram, they hear your story, or they hear your, like, you know, your confidence mantra. And they, you know, they're going to hate, they're going to have things to say, they're projecting onto you with some of the things they're dealing with. And, you know, depending on where you are in the world or who your parents were, you're raised a different way. You know, and it is a virtue to be humble and, you know, to squash ego and things like that. But it's also great to have pride, you know, and to have self-love. Self-love isn't just getting a pedicure. You know, self-love is
Yeah.
the way you talk to yourself internally. and are you kind to yourself? Would you say those
Mm,
same things to a friend?
right.
It's all of those things. And so there's a big part of it that has to be, to be an entrepreneur and pick yourself up off the dirt when you've got your teeth knocked out. You have to have an internal dialogue that's telling you, like, get up, you're good enough, you've got the next one. Like, that was only round one, that was only round two, that was only round three, whatever it might be. And there's no one else that's going to scream that to you but yourself. So you have to get your
Yeah.
internal dialogue right. And a lot of that comes with being your own biggest cheerleader,
Yeah.
and so I guess I heard a speaker one time. He has a very successful startup here called Bar K. It's like this a dog bar. And, he said, I love Kansas City. It's full of great people. But he's like, we're just too Casey humble. Like here in the
Mhm.
Midwest, everyone is like trying to, oh my God, I got this shirt at a discount. I didn't pay that much. Or look
Mm,
at this coupon I got. Or everyone is just so humble about who they are and what they're capable of. And he's like, the one thing I learned, like, on the coast or in New York or wherever, as he was kind of growing his startups, was be more confident in who you are and what you bring to the table,
yeah.
and don't be afraid of diminishing your light.
Yeah.
Be confident. So I think that's constantly the balance of just like this, like, oh my
Mm,
God, I don't want people to think I'm doing too much, I'm shooting too high.
yeah.
And if I tell
Yes.
the world or the universe, like, what's going to happen. And
Yes.
then the flip side of that is manifesting your dreams. So
Oh, it's so true. And like I see it all the time. And it's like, people are scared. One, they're scared of like what other people are going to think. What is the super, God power that they believe in is going to think if I request of these things. And then it's all coming back. It's coming from our past. Like, what have we been taught? Like, grew up in Romania, like in a communist country, like we were taught not to speak up. We were taught not to raise our voice. We were taught never to ask for what we want. Just like be
mm-hmm.
quiet and
Be seen, not
that this
heard.
is this is exactly what it is. So it took me years to even be able to be normal with a person. Like when I first came to US, you would talk to me and my eyes were like this. Like seriously, I remember being so shy and just like felt so little, and I had to build myself up. And now, when I talk to people, I'm like, I'm amazing, I'm this, and they look at me like, you don't think you need to calm down a little bit? I'm
She
like,
drank
hell
the
no.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, like hell no, and they're like, oh my God, you are literally the most confident person that I've ever met. And it's sad to hear that, because if we don't start really loving ourselves, how is anybody else going to love us? And once you love yourself, you're able to identify things that are not working in your life. Like, oh, this is not working for me. This mentality is not working for me. There's so many ways that you can improve that. And last point, you said something, being in a Midwest, about the money and how people think like the more humble you are, the better. It took me a long time to get past that, like money's evil. If you have money, you must be from a terrible family, and all these programs that I had in my mind. So now when somebody says, oh, like this is too expensive, or I cannot afford this, and even though it may be true for them, just hearing it irritates me now. I got to a point where I'm like, like almost I don't want to hear it, because I know I've done that in the past and I don't want that memory back. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
tried so hard to rid myself of those thoughts that when I hear it now, I don't even respond. I mean, I don't want to be rude and be like, hey, don't ever say that again in front of me, because I'm like a recovering addict. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, don't drink around me, don't speak those things around me, because I'm still recovering from that. Um, but it's just work in progress. And again, I'm just so blessed to be alive. I'm so blessed to have you come and share your wisdom with us on this show today. And I hope for those who were present during our live and those who will be listening this on iTunes, I am grateful for you, and for you being able to listen to this exact episode this time in your life. Hopefully it will spark a seed inside of you and a fire, because that's all what we want. We want to spread love. There's absolutely nothing we are selling here, just love.
Isabella, thanks for having me on the show. This freestyle has been a lot of fun.
I know. I love it. It's such a pleasure to have you. And I'm so glad we became friends. And I know we'll be in each other's life for lifetime or for a very long time. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if people want to find you, marknology.com, correct?
Correct. I'm on
And
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So, just search Marknology. I made the word up. So there shouldn't be a lot of other people out there. Would love to say hi on whatever platform you find me on.
amazing. Have a wonderful week.